probably guess I have to say first that it's not like God says, you got to do this, and if you don't, I'm going to torture you forever. God, right? Why can't God do that? What do I want you to learn most of all than anything? God is love. God can't do that. Pure love, right? But we can make our lives a heaven that's going to follow us after death, or we can make our lives a hell that necessarily has to follow us after death as well. So in reality, we can even see that here for the most part. We can make our own lives a hell. I mean, we really can in the way our choices that we make and stuff like that. But God doesn't throw us into hell to punish us there. We talked about in this world, if you're free to love, you have to be free to hate. I mean, if you're free to give, you have to be free to take. God didn't create that, but he created the opportunity for us not to follow him. So the whole purpose of why we're here, see if you remember this. I mean, it always hurts me so deeply when you don't remember something I taught you, but it doesn't hurt me deeply. It just makes me go, what? What is the sole purpose of God's providence? What does God want more than anything else as he's working in this world with us?
To get us to heaven.
Bang, to get us to heaven. A+ for that. Right there. Yeah, to get us to heaven. So, I mean, again, it's not simply get them in, then they get their harp, play on the cloud. No, the whole idea, this world, and this fits right in with what I wanted to teach today, the whole idea is God created us in this world with that freedom, and it's a preparation period for us to be born, so to speak, into heaven, into an eternal relationship with God and one another. That's where the growth comes from and everything with people, very much. So that's the reason we're here. What I often say, in some ways, it's like we're in the womb and we're being formed and prepared to be born into heaven. I just use that because the real life is there. The real life is there. This is, in fact, Swedenborg near-death experience people say too, when you have that experience of the other world, it's more real than real. I mean, like you realize, no, this is the reality. And in this world, it's much more of a dimmer sense of life, much more, you haven't developed yourself yet or gotten in touch with what's heavenly, but there you come into it fully. So you can really feel it as your spirit comes outside of your body. So there's a lot there, but what I wanted to say now to get back to that is, in hell, you also, it's not like in hell everybody has a partner too. It's because you can see that sort of like they've become so selfish, they can't really love. Now remember we talked about they can use people, they can love people in the sense of like, well, as long as they're serving me or making me feel good or, important, I will, hang out with them and stuff like that. This is hell. That evil is never satisfied. So there is that. And I'm sure it doesn't even have to be evil, but if you push yourself into something, have you ever had something, I'll tell you a good one, Christmas, even you're waiting, or their birthday, you're waiting for that gift or the gifts or whatever, and you get it, and it's just like, kind of like, well, whatever. It's kind of a letdown. Have you ever felt that way? I think we all have to a degree, right? Well, think about it in terms of like you're really, really misguided about what will make you happy. When you finally get it, it doesn't make you happy. One of the things I could say, evil people in hell are allowed to have pleasure. They have pleasure, but they're not really happy. And I think because happiness only comes with love and goodness. And pleasures, people that are good have pleasure as well. But if you only are a pleasure seeker, you're never satisfied. In some ways, that's the worst hell. Like when you get there, there's eternal frustration. You keep trying, and you never reach that part where you feel good. So the easy examples of that are somebody that's just into money and status, right? If that's all they're into, money, when do they feel they have enough? Never. It's like, I still don't have enough. I want more. They're still focused on it. There's something itching in them that doesn't feel good. Another way is like, look at people that are really into, let's just say fame, because people in fame talk about this a lot that are famous. If all you care about is I got to get more famous, I got to be better than that singer over there, I got to, or a sports person, Michael Jordan, whatever, I got to beat Michael Jordan, whoever else is coming along, and that's all you care about. I want to be the best and everybody recognize me. There's always going to be somebody better, or if not, you're never going to feel like you're there, or once you get there, you have to hold on to it. And there's all kinds of things that just fall through and make you feel like you're in hell. And when you come into the other world, you're going to live the life you lived here. So I mean, it's, if it's a hellish life or hellish inside, that's what you're going to do. What's really weird about hell? That's what you want to do. I mean, it's interesting. You don't want to go to hell. Nobody gets there and says, can I go to hell, please? I would love to go to hell. No, Swedenborg says a lot of people ask when they get there, they say, am I going to heaven or hell? They seem to because they think of it as terms of you go through that gate and for eternity you're over there being punished, or you get in there and everything. But what happens is they gravitate to people like them. And they gravitate to have people who have the same loves, and they've set up their whole inner system to try to feed off of, like we just talked about off of those loves that never give them pleasure. So it's interesting. So even they can get in. People in hell are so deluded that they might say, "Oh yeah, I'm living the best life. Oh yeah, this is great," counting their money and pretending they're kings and queens or whatever. But inside they're miserable, but they're just faking themselves out. Do people fake themselves out in this world? Absolutely, right? I think two examples. Remind me to talk about a drug addict in a second, okay? But the first one is, I love the movie, and I always talk about old movies, but I bet you some of the people here have seen Scarface with Al Pacino. Yeah, okay. A hard movie to watch, actually. But, he comes in the United States and he begins to get involved in a gang, and it's a drug gang. And you watch this guy, on one level, build up his success in the way of he gets the hot trophy wife, and he's got, gazillion, money coming in from the drug cartel. He's at the top. The power he has is unbelievable, and the people, how they treat him. At the same time in the movie, everything's falling apart in his life. He loses the love of his life. He starts, the people around him, he loses his friends. People start to turn on him. And at the end of the movie, anybody want to say what happened? At the end of the movie, they're all coming to get him. So the other example, though, is, and this is not an evil, but I think this idea you can have pleasure, but you're not happy. This is not evil. This is much more of a sickness. But when you talk about addiction and it's a physical thing as much as it is, something mental that you get stuck in. But I don't know any drug addict, like a heroin addict, or even something worse than that, would ever say that they're happy. They're getting pleasure from doing the drug. In fact, it becomes so addictive, they get that temporary pleasure, and they'll say, yeah, I get that high. I get the feeling of being okay, or even better than that, the elation. But when it wears off, I'm not happy. I'm addicted to this thing. It's taken over my whole life. And, that's why when they get into recovery, there's such a sense of I've become free. I'm free of that. Now I really am happy because I've let go of that. So that was all good stuff, not necessarily exactly what I was going to cover today, but I think we really got into the difference between heaven and hell. But again, the whole purpose was, if you want to say that God created us, is for us to be in heaven. And to make the choices and build our life in a way so that we can show up for eternity the way we want to show up. And that's it's a cool idea. I like that idea, and I think it takes it makes some sense. It makes much more sense than, well, you got in and now you got your harp or whatever, or you got in and you got your pitchfork. It makes much more sense. In fact, he says that another thing that's kind of controversial is he says that we're born to become angels, and he says that angels in heaven, all the angels in heaven, were once in this world. That they're people who have died and they go to heaven. In fact, may say that inhabitants of heaven are called angels. In Christianity, mainly, especially in Catholicism, which was I'm not knocking it, it was the first church. It's been around longer. It means the general or universal church of Christianity. They've made up all these, basically a lot of stories and mythologies about angels. Like there's angelology, there's the angel this, Raphael and Michael and this and that. I just named some that are in the Word. But they've got these angels. There's only a few angels that are actually named in the Word. But then over time, like monks and spiritual guides and stuff have written books and named all these angels. So there's a whole ton of angels, and they all have some use that they perform. And they are all super beings that were never here on earth, that were created as angels. And they're inhabitants of another world. They almost like aliens. They've never been here. In fact, Swedenborg says, no, that's not true. They come, angels that show up here on earth, like the angel that appeared angel all through the place. That Mary, an angel appeared before Mary to tell her she was going to have a baby. The angel Gabriel. Angel Michael is fighting against the evil spirits and the devil in the book of Revelation. And there are other angels that do show up. But it's interesting because angel, the word angel, there's another one of these words. What does it mean? Angel means messenger. It's another one of these things, if you think about it, if they had actually translated the word, like I am, if they had actually said, then I am talked to Moses and I am this and that, we'd have such a different picture of God than Jehovah, who people think is his name. In the same way here, using this word angel, it wasn't really completely brought into what it means in another language or English. It simply means messenger. So everywhere in the word where it says, and the angel of the Lord appeared before whoever, it just says the messenger of the Lord. And when that angel appears, or an angel appears in, like, say, another places, when Jesus rises from the tomb, in every single one of the Gospels, there's someone there, an angel of some kind or another, to say, he is not here, he has risen. And it doesn't even say angel there, it just says they walked in and there was a person there dressed in white, glowing, a messenger. There was a messenger there. So the next thing I just wanted to say is he talks about, Swedenborg says, so we're going to become angels, and angels are in a human form. I mean, meaning you're not going to have wings. They're wings, and what's interesting is that's not controversial, really. People believe that we have wings and all the pictures of wings. Do you know why? Well, in the very beginning, people wanted to. People, like in their artwork, they wanted to, like if they were doing something with Mary and Joseph or whatever, and an angel coming to them, or more people being in an artwork, they needed or wanted to point out which one is the angel. So they're like, well, how are we going to do that? Well, angels, they come from heaven. They're messengers from heaven, kind of like flying down here to talk to us. So they put wings on them to show that's the angel. The wings represent they're traveling from heaven to earth. But no one, I'm sure somebody did, but in the beginning, no one believed when they first started doing this that angels actually had wings. It was just a symbolic way of just telling you, like I said, which were the angels. And we forgot about that over the years. I mean, over the centuries, we forgot about that, and we've given angels wings, and when actually they're human. They're human just like us. Now, does that mean people don't see angels in all kinds of different ways, like in the near-death experience? True. And also they see God in all kinds of different ways when they have that. But that, again, that's because God is so great that he allows us to see him according to how we are imagining to see him, or angels too in heaven. Yeah.
I got two questions. The first one is, what's your take on how, I've always believed, or like grew up believing, or whatever it was, but the angels will come down from heaven and then bring your soul up to the Lord, or to God and everything. But like, I don't know, to me the wings represented that, having the angels bringing up your soul.
Well, it may be that's part of what, there's parts where you can see, there's actually pictures where they're lifting people up into heaven, and I think that's representative, right, of them, right, taking them up to heaven. That's another way. See, they really felt that the angels actually, the wings help describe what angels do. Swedenborg says that we are already this is a mind blower, we're already in the spiritual world. I mean, our minds are spiritual. We're not conscious of that world. We don't, the angels or devils or whatever are not conscious of us in that world. But so what happens is when we die and wake up, we're basically already there. It's just that our spiritual eyes are open and we're waking up to this new reality. It's almost like we're living in dual realities, but we don't even recognize that until we die. So that's the kind of thing, like, because if an angel is a spiritual thing, like on a different dimension, I just think it makes more sense that when we see an angel, we're seeing them in that new dimension. Not that they all of a sudden took on a body and came to us. I don't know, though. I don't know. Also, what Swedenborg says is when we wake up, there are angels with us that care for us, until we're completely awake, and they infuse good thoughts into us and keep us, safe and peaceful until we're ready to wake up and start moving around, stuff like that. So that depiction of angels being with us, again, Swedenborg agrees with. Yeah, and then so the other thing is like where do Christians especially get the idea of of what the afterlife is like, or that there is one. It's true that Christians would say, and I think others would say, that they have a stronger belief or faith in the afterlife than any other religion. Because there's so much about the afterlife in Christianity, and what Jesus had said, he gave a lot of emphasis about that there is a life to come, whereas Judaism, not so much. There's a couple of images. Saul conjures, Solomon, a guy that was dead. He gets a witch to conjure Solomon back, and Solomon's like, "Why have you brought me here?" kind of thing, a little scary. A couple other places where, like, David loses a son, and David says, he will never come back to me, but I will go to him, a sense. But in the New Testament, there's a ton of places where Jesus talks about the afterlife and really gets people a sense that that's really a place that we're going to come into all fullness. Like, the first thing he says is, don't look for the kingdom here and kingdom there. The kingdom of God is within you. The idea that you can become a heavenly person. Work on yourself, like we talked about with marriage, but it's true with everything. Work on yourself, and you're becoming, you're allowing the Lord to change you into a heavenly person. But he also says things like, do not worry, in my Father's house are many mansions. Actually, it's rooms. I go to prepare a place for you, that where I go, you may go also. Like this, there's another realm for you to go to. The scribes and Pharisees, again, the bad church leaders, they didn't like what he was doing, and they said, "Who are you anyway? Who are you? We're the sons of Abraham, the patriarchs, But as for this fellow, we don't know who he is." And Jesus turned to them and said, I think I told you this, he said, "Before Abraham was, I am." But then he went on to say, "And I'll tell you this, Abraham rejoiced at my coming." In other words, Abraham's alive. He knew I was coming here to earth, and he's rejoicing over that. Just another way of saying he's still alive. And there are other places where Jesus said it. One of the ones I think is the most special and most poignant is on the cross. I mean, here, it's such a great picture, because you see Jesus on the cross, being crucified, and all these people like spit. You saw some that spit at him and all that, but they did all kinds of, they laughed at him. I mean, he completely, in the human part of him, must have looked like he had failed on some sense or another. But inside, he's working through it. He's going to end up, the last thing he says before he dies is, mission accomplished, before he dies. But he's up on the cross, and you can see, everything, this crazy hellish scene going on, and he's got his head down maybe, and there's two thieves on either side of him that are being crucified at the same time. And one of the thieves just almost does what the people are doing now down there. He starts saying, like, ridiculing Jesus. "Jesus, if you really are the Son of God, why don't you save yourself and us?" Kind of like, "and us, we want to get saved too." And Jesus doesn't, move. But then the other one says, "Will you leave him alone? We're getting our just punishment for what we've done, but this man hasn't done anything." And then he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And then and Jesus raises his head and says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Kind of like the real story here. It looks real bad. We're going to be in paradise together today. And so, a lot of people look at that as a beautiful image of, no matter what we might be going through here, that there's a better world that's coming for us. And Swedenborg lays that whole world out. Swedenborg, I mean, here I am telling you all these things. He says heaven's like the way Curtis Child, some of the videos we watched, he talks about it. Swedenborg had like the mother of near-death experiences, 35 years in the other world, even while he was conscious here. So he reports all kinds of things about what he saw. Not woo-woo or anything, almost very scientific. He was a scientist, but says a lot of stuff. And what's really cool is a lot of stuff that he says is exactly what the people who had the near-death experience are saying. I could go through it. Like, they say they see this being of light when they die. Swedenborg says God can appear like a being of light. He says it's called, or I'll call it, a spiritual sun. The people say from that light is coming pure love and understanding. Swedenborg says that spiritual sun, which is God, right, radiates pure love and understanding to us. Swedenborg says there's no sense of time and space in the other world. They say the same thing. Swedenborg says you're going to meet your friends and relatives when you get there. They say the same thing. I could go on and on and on about what Swedenborg said. The interesting thing is he said it in 1770 something or whatever, and these people never heard of Swedenborg, knew nothing about him, and reported all basically the same thing. That blew my mind. I was in college here, and studying the book, actually Heaven and Hell is what Swedenborg wrote about the afterlife. And I'm going like, well, this is kind of cool or whatever, but then the first book on the near-death experience came out, Raymond Moody, and if you're in my class 115, we're going to actually look at that book, because on the afterlife. And Moody came out, and all these people are saying exactly what Swedenborg was saying, which was astounding, especially this idea of a spiritual son. I mean, it was like when I was studying, we had to study that book, Heaven and Hell, in high school. Is that still true? Yeah. And I remember Swedenborg saying, just as there is a sun in this world which gives us heat and light, so there is a sun in the spiritual world, which is the way the Lord shows himself. The heat from that sun is the Lord's love. That light, his wisdom coming to us. And I remember going, come on, Swedenborg, can't you come up with something a little more, I don't know, a little more realistic? It sounded too scientifically perfect, like he was making it up. Kind of like, sun here, sun there, da-da-da. Then when I got in college here, and all of a sudden these people are saying, I saw a light that was radiating pure love and understanding, and it had a definite personality, and most people saw it as, that's God, or some people would see it differently, but it was always the deity that they believed in. Well, all of a sudden I said, how in there? Oh my goodness, that is such a coincidence. It's beyond coincidence. That is another reason why I just started going like, wow, I really, I wasn't into it. I mean, like I was here because it was the place to go, kind of like, but that really got me interested. Kind of like, wow, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If I don't really understand something, I'm not going to go, it's not true. I'm just going to go, I don't get it yet, but maybe I will someday. So that was really something that started me on my journey to want to look more into Swedenborg. So the last thing I want to do, and there's plenty of time, is show you this video.